It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Oh yeah, we hitting that.
Painkiller.
CJ, the painkiller.
Kevin Jackson.
So we need to start acting like a big boy football. It's time for the jet tax to die.
You're listening to Weapons Hot on Sports War Radio and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Darnold fires one into the end zone. It is caught. That's a jet touchdown.
And now here is your hosts, CJ, the Painkiller, DeSimone, and Kevin Jackson.
What's going on, Jets Nation? Welcome to another edition of Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, Snowman Digital Media, and quite frankly, any place where you get your New York Jets fix, news, fan news, etc. I am your host, CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, and now it is time for me to introduce my squadron. So let's give it up.
Now, here's a little story I got to
Ladies and gentlemen, making up the trilogy here on Weapons Hot, put your hands together for Mr. Kevin Jackson!
I'm saying, still. All right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back for another white hot episode of Weapons Hot. Ready to get it in. Again, I'm really excited about our guests. You know, we always seem to have a way of bringing in some really fire folks to discuss Jets football with us. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that. Got a few things to discuss today. Probably going to spend a little bit of time in free agency. So if you got your notes out, or if you have some information that you'd like to share with us, you obviously know. Get with us in the comments. Leave your questions. Leave your comments. Weapons Hot, man. Let's get it. I'm ready to go.
All right. And now, introducing the third member in our squadron. Ladies and gentlemen, from the top secret bunker over there way out in Idaho, put your hands together for Jimmy, the Reaper Jardine!
All we are is entertainment, caught up in our own arrangement. Tell us what to say and what to do.
Reaper, what's going on, brother man?
Oh, it is finally Sunday, my friends.
Right.
Sunday. You guys are at 7 p.m. I'm at 5 p.m. But it's Jets football time, guys, because what off season? There's no such thing with us.
Oh, yeah.
And I, just like Kevin, super excited about our guests tonight. CJ, hit him with that Weapons Hot intro.
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a very special pilot joining us today. And you know, as always, we got to bring our Weapons Hot guests in the right way. So we got some very special music queued up for them. There it is. I hear it. Yeah. Just let those tunes just flow. Just let it flow. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, from the Sports Hit List broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, put your hands together for Mr. Declan Krogman!
Oh my God.
All right.
Krogs, what's going on, brother man?
I'm saying, Declan on the guns. Declan on the guns. Let's go.
You have outdone yourself. I was not expecting a little Drake and Future jump, man. Shout out to 2016. That was fire. Oh, my God. I've been introduced. It's insane. How do you even follow that up? Oh, my. I didn't know what to do when you guys were getting introduced, by the way. Oh, my God. I look like an embarrassed son, like looking at his father and his mom dancing.
We do this, man. We do this.
Nah, listen. You like Kevin always says, you know you've been introduced when you get a Weapons Hot introduction.
No question.
So
nothing else measures up.
Exactly.
You told me you were bringing a fire song, and you lived up to that. You did just that. So we're already off to a great start.
Absolutely. All right, so Declan, really quick, I know that you've been on the show before for a short amount of time. Now, there are some people, though, that have never gotten the opportunity to hear about you, to hear about your show. So please, give us like a quick synopsis. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so pretty much my name is Declan Krogman. As CJ alluded to, I was on the show, I think, once back in November during the Jets bye week as like an emergency guest host. Yeah. And so obviously happy to be back, first of all. So thank you guys for that. Second of all, I have a new show with Greg Polius and Stefan Polius, also from the Sports Hit List, coming tomorrow. Debuting on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's called Smoke and Mirrors. Mondays and Fridays at 1 o'clock from 1 to 2. We'll start tomorrow. And that's kind of why I'm here. CJ had asked me to come on, I think, last week, and then we made it work this week.
Yep.
And I'm super excited to be here, obviously. As I've said, in terms of myself, I play baseball and football. In football, I'm a quarterback. Baseball, I'm a pitcher and an outfielder. And I've been, I've been with the Hit List since September 2020 or August 2020, early parts of football season, for sure. And I'm just excited to keep talking about the games I love on a network that has been nothing but gracious, and I'm very grateful for. So yes. I appreciate that.
Yes. Hey, we appreciate having you. Let me tell you something, because it's always, it's always a pleasure to have other guys that are also on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network coming and joining us. Last week, we actually had the boss on, Weapons Hot. Mr. Errol Marks, who joined us for a few minutes, and it was always, it's always great to have Errol on, because he always brings a very unique perspective to the table. And, some of his takes rather controversial, but you know what? Some of them are definitely also spot on. Errol does a couple of shows during the week, also does the Weekend Crunch on Long Island Radio on your FM dial. For those of you in New York City.
Which is insane, by the way.
Yeah, which is awesome, because, just showing that Worldwide Sports Radio Network is starting to reach out, and we're starting to get some other peeps, involved. So one of the main topics for tonight's show is free agency. Now, remember, today's February 28th. Tomorrow, March 1st. Free agency fast approaching. We kind of talked about this on both Weapons Hot and Weapons Hot After Dark last week. Shout out to Harrison Fireball Glazer for joining us on Weapons Hot After Dark on our YouTube channel. Be sure to go and check that out if you haven't already. And there's some very interesting things coming up as far as the draft. We're now starting to head over into the legal tampering period. So, Jax, I'm going to start this off with you. Then we're going to go around the room. We'll go to Reaper, and then obviously we'll follow up with Declan. We're starting to see some different stories, some different now flavors coming out, including the Panthers. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with the Panthers. So, by the way, shout out to First Sergeant Matthew Sansati, if you're listening. He's a First Sergeant over at Patrick Space Force Base here in sunny Florida. Diehard Carolina Panthers fan, so I wanted to give him a shout out. But we were kind of having a conversation a little bit about free agency, and especially about the offer on the table with the Panthers in regards to Deshaun Watson. Now, the Deshaun Watson saga now took a left turn. Pretty much everybody expected this left turn to kind of happen, but we didn't expect that it was going to be as dug in as it was. Apparently earlier this week, or earlier last week, should I say, Deshaun Watson met with David Culley, the brand new head coach of the Houston Texans, and basically flat out told him, I have no desire to play for this franchise. I have no desire to play for this team. I want to be traded, and my time here is done. So that's going to leave Nick Caserio into that leaves him in a very precarious position, because either you're going to look for trade partners to deal Deshaun Watson, or if you're just going to be that kind of a dope, which right now it kind of seems like he's heading down that trajectory where he really wants to get himself entrenched in, where he's looking at Deshaun Watson as his franchise quarterback. Now Deshaun Watson has pretty much publicly come out and said that he's already entrenched. But now we hear the outrageous offers coming from Carolina, in which a package which was introduced about 7 draft picks, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, a couple of other prominent names which escape me right now. Jax, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because we've seen this all over Facebook, and everybody was kind of scratching their heads going, what the hell is this? Yeah. So, really quick, tell me what you saw, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what's brewing.
I don't know what's brewing, and to be perfectly honest with you, It's extravagant. It is an extremely large and varied kind of package. It is, if that is the proposition. We're talking about multiple picks, multiple players. But to be perfectly honest with you, again, it sounds again a lot like something that just is a part of silly season. This is a season where the most outlandish things are going to be what it is that we talk about. Because there isn't anything real. Neither of the teams have said that this is what is going to be or what is being proposed. So, again, I take this with a grain of salt. And also, just to think about it in terms of the whole Deshaun Watson meeting Cully and now having to choose between packages available. What really did they expect? I mean, Deshaun Watson having being in this position where he's actually playing above average football with a subpar supporting cast, coaching staff, player personnel group around him, and then saying that he wants to have a little bit more input into the processes that kind of go into seeing what the final product is, and then having them completely ignore what it is that he says, and then signing a guy like David Culley who has no experience and who to be perfectly honest with you, and I guess if you guys disagree, I'd like to hear that, but a lackluster kind of a choice for them. Easterby, Cesarios, those guys, man, I think they're really doing their best to try to make it seem like this is a farce in how it is that they're handling this, and Deshaun Watson is by all rights, and should be pissed and should be ready to go. And meeting with David Culley, especially how many weeks after the guy was actually signed. I mean, what kind of priority does that make him feel like he is as the franchise quarterback? So look, I try to stay away from the speculation about the picks and the compensation because it sounds ridiculous, and I get that, but. I just be honest with you. I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me. It doesn't sound good. It sounds like it's exorbitant, and I understand that all of these packages are going to be large and they're going to be wide ranging. But that in particular, no, I don't think that actually makes sense. I don't think it's realistic, and I'll just be honest. I don't think it's something that we should really pay much attention to at this point.
Right, I got you. Reaper, talk to me. What are your thoughts? I know that you've been incredibly outspoken on social media about all of this. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts put together all in a nutshell here.
Look, Carolina can offer whatever they want. I would assume that they're ready to do something along those lines. Christian McCaffrey coming off injury, things like that. Like maybe they're kind of questioning having him long term. So maybe potentially looking at dealing him while they have some value. But think about it like this. Deshaun Watson has to approve the trade because of his no trade clause in his contract. Why would he want to go to Carolina? Well, I think the question for that would be easy enough to answer. They have a solid running game. They have a decent passing game. Joe Brady has done really great things with that offense. So he could step in and pretty much succeed. I think Deshaun Watson in Carolina would make them really an instant contender, I think, with the roster that they currently have. But here's the thing. If Carolina is just going to give up all of that player personnel and all of that draft capital, it's the exact same situation that Watson's in Houston right now. So why would he agree to that sort of a trade? He's mad because his weapons are being dealt for peanuts right now in Houston. Why would he approve a trade to another team that's going to deal all of their weapons just to get him in there and put him in the same situation? I don't necessarily buy that aspect of it. The aspect that it would be approved. And really, Carolina doesn't help Houston at all in the draft. Like, they can throw every pick they have at them. They still don't have the number 2 pick. They still don't have the number 3 pick. The only 2 teams in this equation I think that make any sense are the Jets and the Dolphins. And the Jets more so because I don't think Houston, maybe with a new regime, they don't care about this as much. But trading your only franchise star that you have left to get your picks back, I don't see it happening. I don't think they would survive Houston media and Houston fans. Those guys have already suffered enough with Harden leaving, with everybody jumping ship in Houston. But I think the Jets are really the only logical conclusion, and I think because of that, it's not going to be as drastic a trade compensation as everybody thinks it is. So what I think about Carolina, they would have to make a trade offer like that just to be in the equation because of the number 8 pick. It just holds no value when the two other teams that are in the mix have the number 2 and the number 3.
All right. So, Declan, I know you got the 30,000-foot view of all of this. Now, obviously, you don't have a dog in the fight. But I do know on your show that you're a part of, the Sports Hit List, you guys kind of dive into all things NFL when you guys talk about it and stuff like that. Tell me what your view is.
So my view on the entire Deshaun Watson thing, the whole saga situation and kind of negative situation for Houston, that is, I kind of agree with Jimmy on a good chunk of what he was saying in terms of, Deshaun Watson came out and said he doesn't want a Carmelo Anthony type of trade situation where they're going to move their entire franchise to get him. So to trade guys like, I've heard Curtis Samuel's name in the mix, Brian Burns, and, Robbie Anderson and McCaffrey, obviously. To trade guys like that, you're now downgrading your franchise. Not a knock on Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson is totally, I think he's worth, some of the insane capital that they're saying. Not the most ridiculous stuff, but some of it, like 3 first-round picks, I think he's worth. Now, do I think that they're going to give him that? Because no, Houston has no leverage in these trade talks. They know that, if they don't think they have to trade him, everybody who's going to be in talks with them think that he has to be traded, because if he holds out, it's a lose-lose for both situations, right? So now, on everything that Jimmy said, and that I totally, I don't want to say vibe with, but I totally get that, like the Dolphins and the Jets would make the most sense considering they have the 2nd and 3rd pick. And I don't think the Dolphins would really be too, emotionally connected with Tua to move him. I feel like they would have no problem moving him to Houston. And I think the Jets would really have no problem getting rid of Sam Darnold or not drafting Zach Wilson if it meant having a 25-year-old, already perennial all-star MVP candidate as your quarterback to start your franchise. 3 first-round picks is a lot in terms of what you're going to move, but I think they have to move him. I kind of don't think that they will. I think that the Texans are that poverty of a franchise and are that bad that they might not put something together. And if they do, and if they ever do anything, we're hearing NFL execs saying that they're going to do something after the draft. That limits all potential trade capital that you're going to get in.
It destroys the entire value for Watson. They have a guaranteed number 2 or number 3 pick right now. And at this point, with them not having a 1st or 2nd round pick, I think Houston is going to play tough for right now. But I think as the closer and closer the draft gets, and as more and more teams resolve their quarterback issues in free agency, I think Houston's going to start to panic, and they're going to make a pre-draft move, and that's also going to drop the value. I was just going to say that same thing. It's going to shorten what it is the expectation is for them to get it back. Not to mention the fact that it would solidify kind of the idea that Houston is that poorly run of an organization if they start to do stuff like that and ends up costing themselves what it is that they get back from a trade.
Absolutely. DJ, you mind just quickly?
Shoot, go for it.
You guys both said it's such a good point. Like with the free agent moves, we're not going to see the Dolphins sign a free agent quarterback.
No,
we're probably not going to see we're not going to see the Jets sign a free agent quarterback if they're going to go for a guy with the number 2 pick, unless they trade for Watson. If they go for a guy at the number 2 pick, or if they get rid of Sam, these teams are not going to sign free agent quarterbacks. So in a way, the Texans could wait till the draft to see if they could build up even more value somehow. You don't know, especially depending on if a team trades up to get a quarterback. Like you don't know if that 4 pick, or if Miami moves a pick, or if the Bengals, or if anybody moves a pick early on, you could see an interesting switch where the Texans might feel like, okay, now the really only 2 teams that I need that I could get something for is Miami and the Jets. Because you don't know what Carolina is going to do either. Because I don't think they trust Teddy Bridgewater that much. I think Teddy Bridgewater, take the first part of his last name, as much as I love Teddy, I thought he was drafted into a tough situation where he got injured. He's a bridge quarterback from one to the next.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that right now, for Carolina to give up for even the story to come out that Carolina is willing to part with as much capital right over there, I think you'd actually be dooming Deshaun Watson to an actual worse situation than he's already facing in Houston. See, and this is where I think it plays into the New York Jets' hands, and I've been saying this over the past couple of weeks, and I know that everyone out there kind of kind of like took what I was saying with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I think that the longer that this plays out, this is going to be Joe Douglas. Okay, look, we'll give you the number 2 overall. Okay, we'll give you Seattle's first-round pick next year. We'll throw in Sam Darnold. That's what we got. And this is exactly what he's doing. Because at this point, Joe Douglas has probably got his plans all mapped out right now, along with Robert Saleh. Granted, there are conflicting stories coming out, which no one can really put any truth to, that the Jets are conflicted about moving on from Sam Darnold. Here's where I call kind of bumpkiss on that. Is if they wanted to keep Sam Darnold, you come out and you say you want to keep Sam Darnold. He's your starting quarterback going forward, and then you map out your plan from there. So Joe Douglas has got no allegiance to Sam Darnold. So
he didn't draft him.
Right. So, which means that at this point, having Robert Saleh in, bringing Michael Floor in, bringing a brand new staff in, you have a brand new coaching staff. Nothing from the old regime is left now. So we have a completely blank, clean canvas. So now Joe Douglas is going to put his fingerprints all over this team. And he's going to build this team in his image. And I think the best part about it, which all of us can agree, is that there's zero interference from the Johnsons. Because by now, you know that Woody Johnson would have been in Joe Douglas's ear saying, get me Deshaun Watson, and I don't give a damn what it takes.
We're still not even sure if that's not the case now, though, to be honest with you.
Well, even if it is the case, I'm sure that Joe Douglas is probably looking at Woody Johnson right now and probably saying, who's the football dude here?
Right. Shut the
Right.
Joe Douglas can beat up Woody Johnson. I'm not worried about that.
Go to your penthouse over there, go sit in the corner, order your bottle of Dom Perignon or whatever it is, and just shut your mouth and leave the organizational decisions to me. Because
let the big boys do the talking.
Exactly. So now here's the beautiful thing. Is that the Jets actually have an opportunity now to rewrite everything. Okay? So, I think that regardless, I just don't see Carolina giving up that much capital, so I really think that deal is not realistic. I still think that the longer that this goes on, I think the Jets are still going to end up being the best option for Houston. So, I just think it's crazy to think otherwise. Now, I could be wrong. The Dolphins could come out and decide that they want to punt on Tua, which would actually make that decision to tank, not last year, but the year before last, in order to draft Tua, very ridiculous and would make their front office look incredibly weak. But who knows? So for right now, the Jets now going full steam ahead right over to free agency. This is where it's going to pose different categories because we know that this team's full of holes. Yeah. So we know that Joe Douglas is going to be looking to get some key pieces to plug some holes, but fill the rest of it with the draft. Yeah. So the Jets, as I've said in past, are probably in the best position right now than they have ever been in this franchise's history in regards to cap space, in regards to draft assets, and in regards to what direction they can head in the future.
With regards to leadership.
Right.
Very specifically. We've been discussing this, on quite a few shows, going back the course of the past few weeks, how, the change of the guard actually is going to, basically signal a new way to look at the Jets and how it is that they're building. So, a lot of this, again, it's ridiculous talk. I think we went into this season, especially once it was announced that Deshaun Watson wanted out of Houston. I think we went into this entire process being the best possible landing spot for him, not only with regards to his own potential on the field, but also with regards to what Houston would actually get back in any potential deal. And I don't think that's going to change. There isn't anything from any outside source that's going to miraculously switch around, who's able to give what and what it means to have a situation like this available to a franchise quarterback who, for all intent and purposes, could actually make his name. And I mean, we're talking about Deshaun Watson, a three-time straight Pro Bowler, but coming to New York and putting that stamp, that brand on his name, and him putting his brand on this team, it's a game changer. I don't think there's any other situation that provides that type of opportunity for him, nor does what it is that he brings provide a better opportunity for us into this next season.
Gotcha. So now, what I want to do is I want to go through some of these, some of these comments on Twitter, and I'd like to thank everyone who's watching right now. Shout out to Frank Ingaglia for watching, Anthony Triola, Ruben Fernandez Vargas, who I've been interacting with, who actually chimed in going, same old Jets.
Not anymore, Rube. Not anymore.
Right. So,
new organization.
Stephen Tranny chiming in. Ask a question. CJ, do you still want Sam to stay with the team? I answered him, I think his time here is done, but I won't be upset if he's retained. Because at this point, we really don't know exactly what the Jets are going to do. My honest opinion is they're going to move on from him, because otherwise I think something would have been said otherwise. So right now, Joe Douglas is playing everything very close to the vest. That's the way that he wants to play it. That's the way he's been playing it all of this time. So I think I think it's pretty safe to say that's the way they're going to go. Frank Ingaglia chimes in, if Carolina offers that package, we need to gracefully bow out. If we can get Watson for 3 firsts, get it done. Number 2 this year and 23, and our Hawks pick next year, maybe a 2022 third. We are too far away to give up more. Absolutely. But I think that, honestly, Deshaun Watson can be had for less than that. I don't think that 3 first-round picks are what's going to take to get Deshaun Watson out. The Houston Texans are in salary cap hell. They need a bailout the worst way, all right? They needed a bailout worse than the airline industry back when the stock market crashed in 2009, okay? So, right now, the Jets pretty much have everybody by the couillons and can pretty much dictate terms as to what they can do. Plus, Watson has the final say on where he gets traded to. And right now, he's come out and said he wants to get traded he either wants to get traded to the Jets, the Dolphins, or the Panthers. And if the Panthers and the Dolphins are not going to offer up a good enough package to get Watson, guess who he's coming to?
Yeah. We have to be clear that package, though, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and one of the fellas in the comments, Ray Burgess, sorry if I butchered the name, pulling for Russell to get moved.
What's up, Ray?
Next year becomes a top 10. That's what I've been trying to say to people is don't sleep on that Seattle pick. Russell Wilson is just as upset with Seattle as Deshaun Watson is with Houston.
Yeah, but I think though, Jimmy, sorry to cut you off. I'm going to let you finish your point in just a second. I think, though,
I'm gonna let you finish. You hit him with the Kanye.
I think that seriously, Russell Wilson is basically sending a message to his front office staff that he is tired of getting his ass beat on a regular basis, and I think that he hasn't formally come out and requested a trade, but he is voicing his displeasure, which is something that you rarely hear Russell Wilson do, because from all the reports about Russell Wilson, he's a straight-up guy. He's very involved with Seattle charities and so on and so forth. He's got a lot of stuff that he's got his hands in over in Seattle. So for this kid to pipe up, okay, he's not piping up because he wants to get moved. He's piping up because he wants the organization to do something about it to fix their present situation, because otherwise he's going to get himself killed or his career is going to be considerably shortened. Now, if that doesn't,
more hits than anyone over the course of the
right.
past few years.
So I mean, he's not wrong for piping up, but I think that him coming out publicly now puts the spotlight on Seattle to say, well, we need to make our franchise quarterback happy, or, there's the potential that he could want out. And then guess what? Jamal Adams would be stuck on another rebuilding team. But Jimmy, go ahead. Finish your point.
Well, what I'm saying is, let's not forget that Russell Wilson has also said, he's also openly declared which teams that he would want to be traded to if it comes to that.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
so that's
right.
pretty.
And it came to that.
That's saying a lot without saying a lot.
Right.
So let's just keep that in mind. My point being is this Houston's unwillingness to talk about Deshaun Watson right now could be a benefit in disguise because of the fact that if we said, hey, we're going to give you our number 2 pick this year, we're going to give you our pick, the Jets pick, first round in 2022, and then if that deal were to get done, that Seattle pick, just like Ray said in the chat, that could turn into a top 10 pick and be better than our pick. We could very well be in the low teens, high 20s next year, especially if we have Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, exactly.
Right.
So my point being is, don't sleep on that Seattle pick just yet. Let's kind of see how that shakes out first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be curious to see exactly how all of these picks will shake out. But you know what? We got to wait till the end of April.
100%.
We still got a long way to go. Free agency coming up. We're now, I think tomorrow. I think we're already in the legal tampering period. But also keep in mind, March 9th, those teams that are grossly over the salary cap, you have to start cutting your players, or you have to start getting your finances in order, because before the league year rolls in and roll call comes, and then you start getting hit with penalties and so on. So this hard cap still has yet to yield some interesting names being cut, but I think over the next few days you're going to start to see those cuts ramp up, especially closer and closer when we get to the 9th. Now, March 9th that's when that ends the legal tampering period, but it also gives the clubs that are over the salary cap the opportunity to kind of handle their business before the league year rolls over on March 17th. March 17th at 4 p.m., dude, let me tell you, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be buck wild, yeah.
It's going to be buck wild. So now, before we start talking about that, of course, top fives. Now, Declan, I'm going to put you under the microscope right about now. Okay, so talk to me about your top 5 free agents that you would like to see Gangrene go after.
All right. So, I mean, as a Giants fan, it's more like the top 5 I don't want to see them go after.
So, I feel you, but come on.
Now, listen, I'll start this with a controversial one. I mean, maybe not controversial, but definitely unorthodox, I would say. So they always say don't pay big running backs. And I'm sure you know where I'm going immediately from what I'm saying this, given we all know who the big running back is up for free agency.
Green Bay, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is up for free agency after a couple of years in Green Bay. It feels like he's only been there 2 years. But he's up after a couple of years in Green Bay. He's been solid. And if this is a team that gets Deshaun Watson, or that is trying to lure Deshaun Watson, or thinks that they can win with Deshaun Watson within the next 3 to 4 years, this might be a guy that would work for you guys in terms of value, exponential. If you can get the contract, if you don't pay him too much, if you get him at the right price, I think this is a guy that you can win with, where you don't have to spend, over the top cap room, shoot the cap off and go nuts with him. So I think that's a guy to keep in mind. I don't think that he's been linked to the Jets. I kind of don't think it's going to happen. I think Green Bay will try to retain him because they're going to try to get all they can out of Aaron Rodgers' last 2-3 years, even though we probably think he can play for 7, but they drafted a quarterback and kind of shot themselves in the foot, in my opinion there. But the Jets should definitely go after him, in my opinion. So another guy that I came up – you want me to give all 5 right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got you. So we got a guy up there, Yannick Nigawa. I think I'm saying that right.
Yannick Nigawa. Yep.
Yes. Traded from Jacksonville to Minnesota. This is a guy who, and I feel like Chris Collinsworth every time you say this is a guy. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yep. This is a guy who I tell you I would love to have in my locker room, because let me tell you, his biceps are just something wild, and he's just got a motor that won't quit. I'm sorry.
That's spot on. That's spot on.
Exactly. So this is a guy, Yannick Nigawa of the Baltimore Ravens. I think I said Vikings by accident. I got the wrong.
No, he was traded to the Vikings, and then they traded him to Baltimore.
Jacksonville, yep. Vikings, Ravens. So this is a guy. He's going to do that with Kershaw and Matt Stafford and the LA connection. Oh, my God. Sunday Night Football is going to be insane with them.
Yes.
Anyway, so Yannick Nigawa is a guy that you could totally get nice reps from, and you could put him on your defensive line. Obviously, he's a premier defensive lineman. He's up for free agency the first time in his career. And this is a guy, again, if we're going to say that the Jets are in win now, if you guys think that, I don't think they are in win now. I think they're a couple years away. But if you get Deshaun Watson, you start the clock exponentially further and exponentially quicker. I would go with Nigawa. Yeah, there we go. He's putting the Jets little koozie in the screen there. I got to get a Giants one, but I don't drink. So I think Nigawa.
said too.
Yeah, good. I think you're going to get me in trouble, Jimmy. I think Nigawa is a guy that you could put on the line, and he could totally, fill the void of Leonard Williams. So I kind of like him there. I don't know if I like all these 5 free agents in terms of what if the Jets can get him. If they overpay for him, I don't think it's a good idea. But in terms of strictly value and guys that are on the market that you can go for is good. Now, this player, right, that I'm next about to mention. He comes from Washington. I view him as, if I'm the Jets, if I'm a lot of teams in the league, you need this guy on your offensive line. Brandon Sheriff, guard, Washington, out of Iowa. He's rookie contract expired. He's finally up. I wanted the Giants to get him a couple years ago. I think they drafted, was it Eric Flowers or Justin Pugh instead of him? Horrible pick regardless, or I think Washington might have took him beforehand. Exponentially amazing. I got to stop saying that. But he's incredible in the run game. And he could totally, plow guys that are 290, 330. This is the type of player that plays smash mouth football on the line and is excellent for run protection and can protect your quarterback, and is definitely something you're going to need if you have Deshaun Watson in a New York Jet uniform come the fall. So that's my biggest free agent that I would go with there. Next, let me pull up my list. All right. So another offensive lineman, we go a guy that the Jets were targeting last year at the franchise tag period. The Patriots snagged him back up. That was Joe Thuney, or Thuney, however you want to say it. He's been pretty good. He did a good job protecting Tom Brady a couple of years ago, and now he did an okay job protecting Cam Newton. That team was kind of a mess, and it did start. While it may have started with Cam Newton, that team was a mess. Joe's a guy who's in big need of a fresh start, and I think the Jets can definitely provide that for him. Now, here's my 5th guy, and this is a guy that maybe I don't think they should get, but a guy that Joe Douglas might pick up the phone, and by far the most controversial after the season, Juju Smith-Schuster. Whatever Pittsburgh does with him, I don't think the Jets should get him, but I think the Jets will cautiously have their hand on the phone when in talks with their camp, unless the likelihood, and this is why I put him 5th, because it's the most unlikely. I don't think they should do it. I don't even know if it'll get to this point, unless Pittsburgh drops that franchise tag or tries to extend him big time. Juju is what I'll leave you with as my last pick. Extremely unconventional, unlikely. This is 2021 Jets football. If you guys think this is a different organization, we're going to see some different moves and some different time frames. So that'll be my 5th guy, as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah,
I'm interested with that Juju pick.
What happened?
I'm interested in that Juju pick.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I don't hate it.
I get that. I don't like it that much either. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's an interesting little shot in the dark that you might want to keep your eye on if he hits the market.
Definitely. He will.
Yeah, he's definitely going to hit the market. And then the question is that Juju's also said that he's very interested in playing with Sam Darnold again. So that could be a catalyst in which, should the Jets not be able to get, should they not be able to get Deshaun Watson? Should any of the quarterbacks out there rumored to be traded or whatever, the Jets don't make any type of deals or so on and so forth, should they decide that maybe they just want to hang on to Sam? They want to hang on to Sam one more year. That's where,
maybe they'll meet in Washington.
Yeah, that could be a possibility too, depending on whether or not, Sam Darnold gets traded to Washington. So right now, you got the kid there, Kent Heineke, or he's hoping that Alex Smith will come back. Yeah, he's hoping Alex Smith will come back for another year. It's still a lot of moving pieces and moving parts over there.
I like that kid. I like him.
Yeah, that kid is crazy.
I'm very excited, by the way, to see what receivers you guys have in this top 5. Because there's a couple I could have went with, and I was like, I'm gonna leave that to the Weapons Hot crew. These are legit picks. That
I got one for you, brother. I got one for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hey, listen. Don't give away any spoilers for the next segment. So we are coming up against it.
I'm enticing.
Oh, yeah. It's
listen,
the tease. It's the tease. We got to smoke a little boombange. We get the picks out, and it's all good.
I may be gone for the next segment. You best believe I'm tuning in now that he just said that.
Nice.
Got you covered, brother. You're going to like it.
All right. Okay. So, since we're coming up against it, Declan, I know we only have you for a short amount of time. Please give out your social media information so fans of Weapons Hot can follow you, and also give out your information about the Sports Hit List and the new show you have coming to Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a quick little roundup. My Instagram is my name, as you see on the screen there. It's at Declan Krogman. If you want to follow me, I'll interact with some fans, whatever you got to do. That's mostly my personal page. I haven't even made a sports page yet. Facebook, same name, obviously. You can find me in the Sports Hit List, probably talking some trash to some Jet fans like yourselves. Actually, everybody. But if we're going to go with the show tomorrow, we got Mondays and Fridays, 1 o'clock, 1 to 2 on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Smoke and Mirrors, myself, Declan Krogman, alongside the Polius brothers, Greg and Stefan Polius. We can't wait. We're excited. This network has an extremely interactive and amazing fan base, and we can't wait to be on your phones, on your tablets, spaceships, blimps, wherever you guys watch.
Watch
the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Get the app, by the way.
As soon as I get
I got you followed on Instagram.
Nice. See, there we go. So we make magic happen. So when we come back on the other side of the commercial break, Mr. Kevin Jackson will be taking the lead over there for his White Hot Spotlight segment. And then we are going to start talking about our top 5 free agents that we believe the New York Jets should target. And you know what? The list is not as easy as you think it is, kids.
Might surprise you.
And there's going to be some definite surprises over here. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you on the flip side. This is Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, Snowman Digital Media, and any place else where you can get your New York Jets fix as we say goodnight to Declan Krogman.
Thank you, Declan.
And thank you so much for coming on. Let's rock and roll. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, and Snowman Digital Media. CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here. Got my boy Kevin Spotty Blackman Jackson on the other side over there, having a little blackout issue. And Jimmy the Reaper Jardine, there he is. And Jimmy the Reaper Jardine in the house from the top secret bunker. So now, as we talked to you guys before, we told you I teased you about this coming into the break. It is now time for our very own Kevin Jackson, Mr. Spotty Blackman, as he takes you in the spotlight.
With Kevin Jackson.
Spotlight.
Jax, who we got in the spotlight tonight, brother?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again in the spotlight. Tonight it might surprise you a little bit. Brian Poole. I'd like to throw Brian Poole in just because I think this is maybe something that we haven't really been discussing as much as we have maybe the quarterback position or a pass rusher along those lines. But Brian Poole is actually and actually has been considered an integral part of what it is that we're doing in our defensive backfield. And I think that this is an interesting time to discuss some of these smaller pieces. Even though I don't think necessarily Brian Poole is a small piece. Over the course of the past couple seasons, with this played 17 games, had an interception return for a touchdown, 15 yards, had a sack, a few tackles for loss, a few quarterback hits. So, I mean, the guy has been able to play all over the field, not to mention playing that integral position as a slot cornerback. I did a little comparison. I saw some stats comparing him to Buster Screen, who was manning that position a few seasons before we actually had Brian Poole come in. And Buster Screen was just giving up all kind of yards and giving up all kind of touchdowns. And Brian Poole literally solidified that position. And actually, when we were talking about our defense overachieving just a few seasons ago, was one of the main reasons why we were actually able to do some of that. So Brian Poole, coming into a contract season, actually, kind of took a little bit of a hometown discount, I think, last season and taking the 1 year, $5 million deal from Joe Douglas. as kind of a prove-it thing before we actually come into this new season where there's probably going to be quite a few major contracts given out with certain regards. I'm interested in kind of if Brian Poole is actually going to be brought back here. I do think that there may be some other options that are available out there, but it is a microcosm of how wide open our cornerback room actually is at this point in time. Between Arthur Marlette, Bless Austin, excuse me, the young Bryce, who we're hoping is going to be able to turn the corner and be a foundational piece in this defense going forward. Brian Poole is an interesting piece for me because I think that as part of a veteran presence within that room, somebody that we know can actually play at a high level, who actually does have a little bit of a specialized skill set, considering not only is he really a great coverage guy when he's healthy, but also is able to kind of penetrate and get some in the backfield play also as well. Brian Poole's an interesting point for me because I want to know, do you guys think that we should actually try to pay him and bring him back? Do we have other guys at the position that might actually seem like better options for us going forward? And really, does losing a guy like Brian Poole actually hurt our locker room? Kind of considering it is going to be a new regime. It is going to be, a situation where the guys that are there are going to be making their mark on some of the young guys that we're going to bring in. And in my opinion, I think we should probably go after at least a couple of cornerbacks with, between free agency and the draft. I think Brian Poole is still an interesting name to keep, in the mix with what it is that we do. So Brian Poole, again, not necessarily a huge statistical, kind of point that I'm making here with having him in the spotlight this week, But I do think that coming into this season, Brian Poole could be, again, like we were discussing last week with Marcus May. I think he can actually be a solidifying force. He actually can be a great veteran presence to have in the locker room as well. But there are still some questions about how much it is that he will cost, and do we have other options available that we think might be better than him at this point? So Brian Poole, I really do like the guy. I like what it is that he brought for us. What do you guys think? I mean, am I off, or what do you guys think about Brian Poole being in the spot this week?
Reaper, I'm going to hand this one off to you, and then I'll finish it up.
I love Brian Poole. I've loved Brian Poole since we signed him, even when the Jets Facebook groups were saying that they were so focused on outside cornerback help, they want Revis Island 2.0. But that nickel corner slot was so important to us because, as we saw in 2020, tight ends absolutely killed our defense, especially after Poole went down to IR. So I think it's a vital position. I think it gets overlooked quite a bit because those lockdown corners are so flashy on the outside. I would love to get Brian Poole back. He right after he went on IR, he kind of alluded to the fact that he didn't want to come back, but that was also before we got Robert Saleh and Ulbrich, and so I don't know. I believe Ulbrich was with Poole in Atlanta for a short amount of time. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but
Ulbrich's been there.
If there is a connection there, I'm sure that Poole could have reconsidered. But if we have a chance to bring him back, I'm absolutely all for it. I love Brian Poole.
Yeah, I like Brian Poole too. There was some question though at the end of the season because of how frustrated he was that he wasn't going to come back. So the question is, now that Robert Saleh is here, it's going to be a different regime. There's a different defensive coordinator. Does that possibly change his mind? Would he be willing to come back on, say, maybe a 2-year, $15 million deal? Which would give him a sizable raise from what he was making last year. I think. What is it? It
was a 1-year, $5 million deal that he signed just coming back in. But I think that 2-year, $15 million is right around the range that we would expect to bring him back at. And I do, again, I think that the coaching changes, the front office changes that we've had, I really do think that it makes a huge difference in how it is that free agents are going to look at this team and look at how it is currently constructed. Brian Poole can come back in and just seeing what it is that they did in San Francisco with that defense would look and say, I could actually be an integral part of a really solid defense going forward. I know the locker room. I know some of the guys that are going to be here. I believe, and I think you're right. I don't think that Ulbrich was the D coordinator in Atlanta when he was there. but I think he was on staff, so there may be a little bit of I think he was there may be a little bit of at least a familiarity, even if not with that same kind of dynamic. But look, if Brian Poole is the kind of guy that you want to have in your locker room, you know what I'm saying? He's a dog, and we were really looking at him being one of the main reasons. And I think that going into the 2021 season, it was why it is that we were saying that we really needed to get done what it is that we needed to bring him back. So when Joe Douglas actually got him on that 1 year, $5 million contract, it was a huge deal. I think everybody was like, yo, we really brought back one of our main pieces at what is kind of a team friendly contract. So, now I think we kind of got to pay him a little bit. But I do think that, bringing him back, just like I would say that bringing May back or signing May to, a long-term deal, I think would be smart football moves. And I think in this case, bringing Brian Poole back is a smart football decision.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, got some breaking news. Lino Cortina and Rockaway Archie have now finally joined the chat. So,
hey, Lino.
Jesus, thank you.
So wanted to go ahead and just make that known because these are two of our favorites.
Lino did his thing on After Dark the other night.
Yes, he did.
Got to give him his props now.
Yes, he did. Now,
I love that guy.
Here's the thing. I like Brian Poole. I think that we definitely should be able to get him back now that there's a change in regime. I think 2 years, $15 million is a fair deal. I think you could bring him in. He could definitely hold it down. So there's a ton of different things that we can do. But I kind of like Brian Poole. I wouldn't mind bringing him back. I think that he'd be able to help the younger guys, just like he started to do last year. Having some of that continuity, but again, we don't exactly know what the free agent market is going to bring. There's a lot of nice cornerbacks out here that I really would like to go after. Some of which we'll go at when we start talking about our top fives. And believe it or not, I think this is a perfect segue to start with our top fives. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man,
Let's do it.
All right, so now. What we are going to do is, Reaper, I'm going to start you off. We'll tee you up. Okay, then after you, we're going to go to Jax, and then I will follow up the rear. So
I'm good. I was hoping that we would go this way because Jimmy's been teasing and got my mouth watering over here. Let's
yeah, exactly. So he's been teasing our listeners about something something very special here. So let's go out there. And we'll do it, and then shortly after we do that, I want to get to some of these comments in here. And again, I want to thank everybody who's watching us live. Anybody who's commenting in the comments and stuff, please keep them on. I'm going to try to get to everybody's comment on the air. I promise I'm going to do the best I can. You guys are the best. So Reaper, take it away. You have the lead.
So I listed my top five in order of importance, where I want who we must go after versus who out of the five who we least should go after, but still is important to take a look at. So I'm going to go backwards. And for number 5, we're going to look at Romeo Aguara, defensive end from Detroit. I like this kid, 26 years old, finished 2020 with 10 sacks, 44 tackles, 2 forced fumbles in 2020. He's going to cost right around $10 million. So when you start talking about defensive ends, he's a natural down defensive end. He's used to the 4-3, so that's important. But you're talking about like Yannick Nigawa, Matt Judon, Bud Dupree. Like these guys are going to cost $15 million plus on the edge, just because there's very few of them, and they still hold immense value going into free agency, even in 2021. I like Aguara, and I like him because he's going to be cost effective. And I really think with Saleh being the head coach, defensive minded guy, even though he's not, he's already said he's not going to call plays. He's not going to do any of that. But you have to think that Robert Saleh is going to focus on defense. I think there's going to be a 60-40 split offense to defense in the draft. So I think we're going to go after an edge rusher. Personally, I love Patrick Jones in the edge from Pitt. But I want somebody that's going to be serviceable, if not even above average. And I think Romeo Aguara, I think he can really shine in our defense at the edge position. We've talked a lot about corners, so coming in at number 4, Richard Sherman from San Francisco. This is probably not going to be a surprise. This is one of the guys that we've talked about in past shows. But the reason that I want Richard Sherman, leadership. The guy brings it. He is a culture changer. He will run through a brick wall for Robert Saleh, and he will teach the young guys on this Jets football team that they also want to run through a brick wall for Saleh.
Yeah, man.
And that is vital. He's lost a step. He understands he's lost a step. He is willing to play free safety. He's willing to play slot corner. He wants to be an effective piece wherever we need him, and that is huge. And that in and of itself is showing the young guys, hey, look at me. I'm a seasoned vet. I'm an all-pro. But here's what I'm willing to do for the team. That right there is culture change. Number 3, kind of a very, very under-the-radar guy. I like Rashad Hill, guard out of Minnesota. He was a depth piece in Minnesota. He only played about 125 snaps in 2020, but he was graded out at a 72.4 on PFF. So he allowed no sacks. He had 0 penalties in 2020. It's a small sample size, but still 125 snaps when you're not used to being in there every single play. I absolutely love that fact that no sacks, no penalties. And these guys, no injury history either. Aguara the same way. No real injury history to speak of. So I know Chapo was in the comments talking about how Joe Douglas likes low injury type players.
Yes.
I love Rashad Hill for that. Let him come onto this team. You can get him for $2-3 million. Give him a 1-year prove-it deal for $2 or $3 million. Let him fight for a spot. If he's a depth piece, then he's a solid depth piece, as he's proved in Minnesota. Now, the moment you guys have been waiting for, my wide receiver pick of the 2021 free agency. I'm going to hit you guys. I am going to hit you guys with Corey Davis, wide receiver out of Tennessee.
Wow.
Interesting.
And the reason I am hitting you with Corey Davis, he's just coming off his rookie contract. He's 26 years old, going to be 27. He played 76% of the offensive snaps for Tennessee, came out with 984 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. His yards per catch is 15.1 yards per catch. He's averaging 70.29 yards per game. And this is on an offense that was dramatically dependent on Derrick Henry. This was not a passing team. This was a Derrick Henry offense in Tennessee. And he still was able to do that. He is a hands receiver. He attacks the ball. He doesn't allow the ball to come into his frame. He is one of the best route runners in 2017 when he came out. Coming out of college, he was one of the best route runners. He has a very explosive first step, even though he's right at about a 4.43 to a 4.45 runner. He's still an outside receiver. He gets great separation on the outside because of his first step and because of his quick side-to-side motion. He doesn't telegraph his routes. Top-notch route runner, would be one of the best route runners on our team right now. So Corey Davis, wide receiver, Tennessee. And again, Chapo, this is for you. Never been injured. He's played a ton. Never misses games, never misses snaps. When they call his number, he's there. So I love him. And last but not least, number 1. And I put this guy at number 1 because of the fact that I found out what his market value actually is going to be. Corey Lindsley, center from Green Bay. Green Bay has already said they're pretty much letting him walk. They're letting him test the waters in free agency. Give Corey Lindsley $12 million a year for 3 years. 3 years, $36 million.
Do it now.
He had 0 penalties. He allowed 1 sack in 2020. Get this, guys. He's played over 90% of his career snaps in Green Bay. No injury history to speak of. He understands what the defense is showing him. That is our quarterback for the offense. I also think that we're going to go another interior offensive lineman, whether it's like a Creed Humphrey or a Wyatt Davis. But Corey Lindsley, being able to teach these young kids what to do on the offensive line, I think that with him leading the pack and with him sharing his knowledge, even with the roster on the O-line that we have now, I think they go from a mid-20s offensive line to a top 15 offensive line with Corey Lindsley running the show out there, and just you talk about Joe Douglas getting the reins for the team overall. You give Corey Lindsley the reins on that offensive line. You let him run the show on that offensive line, and you're going to see something wild. Yeah. You're going to see an offense that we have not seen for 10 years on the New York Jets. So that's my top 5, guys. What do you think?
Look, I have no qualms with any of them because I really think that you're making great points. Obviously, statistically, you're doing your thing. But, just thinking about – and we talk about how many holes this team has, right? But we also, in that same kind of conversation, say that we're really not that far away from really being, a competitive, a foundationally sound team. And
I've said it for weeks.
Exactly. Well, we've been talking about this for years, and CJ, yep. CJ can back this up. We really aren't that far away. And some of these guys, man, I mean, they might not be, the huge names, but they could be honestly linchpin pieces, guys that are really foundationally strong, structurally strong, technically strong. You bring them in and you add them to what is it, an evolving and an emerging locker room situation, an outstanding, young and interactive coaching situation. And I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit, man. I'm really excited about these. A lot of those picks, Jim, yeah, 100% spot on. I'm in.
Let's get it.
All right, Kevin, your turn.
All right, mine is going to be kind of in that same vein. Now, I'm going to spend a lot of time on defense. I'm a defensive guy, Jim. You already know we talk about this all the time, but I think that cornerback and edge rusher are really those are under discussed. We've spent a lot of time talking about quarterback and wide receiver and all of those things and all of the big names, and we all know where we stand in that regard, but. The Yannick Nigawa, that name keeps popping up. Me personally, my number 5 guy is Carl Lawson, linebacker out of Cincinnati. I cannot tell you again how much it is that I like this guy, Carl Lawson. 6'2", 265 pounds, I think he is. 31.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands, 25 years old young kid. Out of the 17 some odd sacks that the Bengals had last season, I think he accounted for 6 by himself. So we're talking about a guy who actually is very specialized at being an edge rusher, a pass rusher. And what we have been missing on this team, and I think it goes back to Abraham, we've talked about that a few times, is a dedicated, functionally special edge rusher. And this guy, I think, actually has an opportunity to be it. So I would always recommend going back and look at the films. If you guys disagree, throw it down in the chat. We'll discuss it as we go. But Carl Lawson is one of my guys, man. I really like that dude. Next up on my list, and I think this is going to probably surprise some, Tyus Bowser, the linebacker from Baltimore. Look, Baltimore has got some guys on that defense, man. I'm telling you right now. And again, I'm looking at kind of young guys, 6'3", 245, 25 years old, had 7 sacks over the course of the past 2 seasons, but also had 3 interceptions to go with it. So he can be a solid addition, not only as far as, being getting that pressure up front, but also dropping back into coverage, man. He's maybe a guy that's been flying a little bit under the radar. But if what it is that we saw Robert Saleh do in San Francisco over the course of these past 2 seasons, especially when you saw guys going down after injury, and you got your main guys going down, and you have some of these guys that are coming in that, again, aren't necessarily household names, but they're playing their parts and they're playing it to a high level. I think this kid, Bowser specifically, has the talent, has the ability to step in and almost like what it is that we've seen from Hewitt and Burgess and those guys. I think he's a little bit better athlete than those guys in particular, which means I think that he can actually be a step above what it is that those guys brought. But those guys were some of the linchpins on our defense, and I really think that Tyus Bowser has an opportunity, if you put him in the right situation, to really kind of excel and be a guy that we're looking in a couple of years as saying that when we brought him in, that was a really big difference in how it is that our defense kind of stepped up. So I look forward to seeing him also. This
great
is
name too.
Yeah,
great
you
name.
know what? I love it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Okay. I think this might surprise some folks, but I know Jim wanted to bring in Richard Sherman, and I'll be honest with you. I love Richard Sherman. I think we've all kind of expressed, some excitement about the possibility of him coming in, especially because of his ties to the head coach. But I like Bashaud Breeland. Just as a cornerback, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I went back and I watched some of his film. And one game in particular, it kind of stood out to me, was when against Buffalo. played both sides, played inside and outside, if I remember correctly, I think I saw him cover almost every single receiver that they had. And that type of flexibility, is especially with in a veteran leader, 29 years old, only had 2 interceptions last season, but it can be very highly functional in man coverage. Could probably teach and be extremely functional also in any zone coverages that we might throw. Like I said, can play well inside and outside, either side. He's a good tackler in the open field, really strong guy in that regard as well. So I like bringing a guy like that into this locker room, especially when we have, and we're more than likely going to have a very young nucleus at that position going forward. And it kind of ties in also to what it is that I was saying about Brian Poole being in our spotlight this weekend. Because when you add another guy like that, that does kind of add some veteran presence, but it also is a guy that can functionally improve what it is that we get from our rookies and from our young players going forward. So doesn't necessarily have to be a break the bank type of a contract. Already at 29 years old, I think you can kind of get away with a 2-year, 3-year deal if you pay him decent money. And, again, if you front load it, doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's a long-term solution for you. But I think has the ability to quite possibly be maybe longer than maybe a 2 or 3 year kind of a guy here with us. So I wanted to keep that in mind also. There's a couple other things because I've been kind of bouncing around about this. There's a really long list of guys, you know what I mean? There's like, I was talking about Tyus Bowser, talking about Yannick Nigawa, talking about possibly Vic Beasley, Bud Dupree. I know we talked about T.Y. Hilton. I mean, these names, these are names, you know what I'm saying, of guys that, are going to be available. But I mean, how does Joe Douglas see some of these guys? Kenny Golladay, who I think is I think is really, I think maybe more available than what people think they would be. I don't know if Detroit is going to want to, kind of pay him what it is that I think that he's going to warrant. And that kind of situation is in flux. But I really like Kenny Golladay. One of my favorites. In this free agent period coming up. So if I was going to add somebody to the list, it would probably be between him and Ty. I think both of those guys actually offer something that we haven't had and that we kind of need here going forward. Our wide receiver room is going to be, it's going to be a little bit in flux, I think, this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. My final guy, and I kind of had a 1A and 1B there with Ty and with Kenny. But I want to look at Alex Mack. Alex Mack, the center from Cleveland. I think they're saying that he's going to end up being a free agent. I think they're going to part ways with him. Functionally, I think there may be better options. I'm just going to keep it real. The guy from Green Bay we were just talking about a little while ago. Exactly. Excuse me, Lindley. And I was trying to remember his name, Jim, but that is exactly the guy who I was thinking of. But there's going to be a lot of competition for some of those guys. There's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a lot of contract, opportunities for these guys. But also, our line is maybe unproven at this point. And if you have guys that are coming towards the end of their career, I mean, they may want to go to situations that are a lot maybe less in flux than what it is that we have here. Understanding that we do have a young line. The star of our offensive line is going to be a second-year player. With Mekhi Becton, and then we've had a whole bunch of kind of journeymen. So McGovern, the McGovern pick didn't pan out. I think George Fant may be criminally underrated at this point. I really don't want to. I always see guys questioning if he's a long-term solution, but not playing the position that he played last season and coming in and playing as admirably as he did in spots, and then only having a year under his belt where he's actually been able to practice and improve his craft. I think George Fant is going to end up being maybe an upper echelon piece on this offensive line if he can stay healthy. So, look, free agency is kind of a crazy season because there's always a lot of names. But we've as Jets fans, we kind of been a little gun shy because we've brought in guys with names that haven't produced. And just think about the cornerback contracts that we've given out these past few seasons. I'm even going back to when we actually paid Revis to check out on us at the end of his career, and then whatever that guy's name is that we paid, $50 million to, who ended up being a scrub. Anyways, I digress. Free agency is going to be interesting.
Which one are you talking about? Because we've got a few that we can mention.
That's it's kind of a blanket statement. All of them, right? All of them. But our rookies, man, I'm really more impressed by what it is that we've got from our young guys. Arthur Mollett, I think, is going to do well. Bless Austin, I think, is going to do well. We've got Bryce, who I think is probably going to end up being a much better pick than I think most people are giving us credit for. So free agency for me is interesting. I hope you guys kind of approve of my picks. I know we can go round table with all of these names, but I don't know. I think all of those guys can bring something to the table that will improve what it is that we have here.
Well said. Let me tell you. So, because we're coming up against it, I'm actually going to give the first half of my list now, and then on the other side of the break, I'm going to give the second half of my list.
Oh, he's going to tease this thing?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to tease it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Because, we can't do 2.5 and 2.5. I'm going to go top 6.
Okay. Ooh.
Only because I got to make it
an extra one.
Yeah. I kind of cheated. I'll be honest.
I gotta make it. I gotta make it easy. 3 on one side and 3 on the other. But here's the thing.
I'll give one extra after the break when you're done.
Yes.
So I'll give.
No, actually, do it now. You know why? Because we're coming up against it. So go for it.
Okay, so this isn't I can make this really quick. This isn't going to be a free agency pick. This is going to be a trade pick because New Orleans is in salary cap hell. I know that everybody was saying in the chat that Pittsburgh is. They're actually only negative $7 million, so they can get out of that fairly easily.
Easy.
But New Orleans needs to gut their roster. We need to get cornerback Marshawn Lattimore from New Orleans. Period. That's gonna. We can hold him over. I think we can offer probably a mid-round pick, 3rd or 4th, and pick him up so that way they can clear the $10 million out of their cap. And Marshawn Lattimore, 100% lockdown corner. There's the outside guy that you want. So Marshawn Lattimore is my extra pick.
All right, cool. So then
I love corners. Bring them in.
I'm gonna go with my bottom 3. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people are probably like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, here's my bottom 3. Here's one guy that interests me quite a bit. And actually, believe it or not, he was the subject of our Weapons Hot in the Spotlight tonight, and that's Brian Poole. Brian Poole, good soldier, brought him in on a good deal. No reason why you can't bring him back. Brand new regime. And I think that he will still be able to add a little bit of consistency to this secondary. That being said, the guy played with his hair on fire. He played very well, and he was very serviceable for what he was asked to do in a Greg Williams defense. He actually started to come on a little bit more once Greg Williams was fired. So maybe Greg Williams was possibly holding the defense back a little bit because we actually started to see the defense play a little bit better after Greg Williams was fired. So who knows? But I definitely would bring Poole back. He's familiar with everything. He's familiar with the Jets organization and could, of course, help to bridge the gap between people coming in and some of the rookies that may not have a clue as to what's going on, considering this is going to be a brand new regime, a brand new, a brand new paint job, so to speak, on the car here. So Brian Poole would be one. Next person that I want to bring in, and I know a lot of people are probably going to look at me a little bit nuts on this one, but I kind of feel a little bit strongly about this one. Now, if you go and take a look at, courtesy of NFLTradeRumors.com, they have their top 100 2021 free agent list. Here's a guy that's on my radar that really does not get talked about a lot. And that's offensive tackle Taylor Morton from Carolina.
Wow.
Now, here's a guy who played very well despite Carolina's struggles. Kept himself healthy for most of the year. Very serviceable tackle. And I think that, given the right circumstance, I think that he has the possibility to flourish. Now, the only thing that does scare me is he's 27. So normally when they start hitting the late 20s, early 30s is when you start seeing the decline in their in their technique, so to speak. All right, now it all depends on what the Jets want to do with the right tackle, situation right now. And I think that Taylor Morton would actually be a good option at the right tackle position because you've already got left taking care of with Mekhi Becton. You put a solid kid up in there in Morton, who's a veteran. He's a little bit salty. He knows how to play the game and could also fortify it, which could definitely help out. Now, that being said, I want to flip on over to my final guy, and then after this, we're going to be going to a quick commercial break. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the backup quarterback position. Okay? Reason being is because Joe Flacco's not going to be there. We still don't know what James Morgan is. I highly doubt we're bringing in a David Fales or some other guy that, nobody's ever heard of from the Alliance of American Football or the XFL or whoever. But here's a guy who I actually would not mind bringing in, taking a flyer on. And I know everyone's probably going to laugh at me about this, but I would go after Jacoby Brissette. And the reason being is because he's a veteran quarterback, a very mobile quarterback, still young enough where he could still observe this system. And whoever you have at quarterback, whether that be Deshaun Watson, whether that be Zach Wilson, if we draft him at number 2, or Trevor Lawrence, or whoever we decide to draft at number 2, or we have Sam Darnold.
Either or.
Okay? You have a veteran back there that can legitimately push whoever your quote-unquote starter is to the brink and actually bring them in and create an actual quarterback competition. And the reason why I like Brissette is because he's played in some pretty high-powered organizations. He's played for the Patriots, played for the Colts. Even though he struggled a little bit, he still had some good run under Frank Reich.
He's put up decent numbers, Jacoby has.
Right. So I think that having a solid quarterback who can legit go in there and actually compete would be a good idea for the New York Jets to have. That's your insurance policy. Because if, say, Sam Darnold, they end up rolling out Sam Darnold, and he doesn't get traded, okay? Sam has a bad day. Fans are going to be booing his ass off the field faster than anything. Okay,
really, I just gotta say, I like Sam.
Brutal. It's going to be brutal.
Right.
I like Sam.
Or
bringing Sam back would be the worst case scenario.
If you have Sam going in there and struggling, okay, you could potentially have that. All right. For me, what I want to see the New York Jets do is have a solid 1-2 punch at quarterback. And I think that if you were to go and draft a Zach Wilson at 2, okay, let the two of them fight it out. Let's legitimately have a quarterback competition where you fight to get your position. Not that it's handed to you because of your draft status. Right. Rookie, free agent, veteran, I don't care. You earn a spot on this team because of how you perform on the football field. Not because of where you came from, not because of who you know, not because of anything. All right? You're going to get a spot on this Robert Saleh team because you earned it.
Period.
All right? And I think that having a Jacoby Brissette in the building, knowing that he can be ready to rock in a Matt LaFleur offense, to me, I would feel a little bit better about my quarterback situation going forward, at least as the backup is concerned. All right? So those are my bottom 3. I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to have the top 3 when we get back from our commercial break. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, and Snowman Digital Media. We will catch you on the flip side. Don't change that dial. Keep your comments coming. We love you guys. We'll be right back.
Yes.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, Snowman Digital Media, and quite frankly, any place where you get your New York Jets news. CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here, Mr. Kevin Jackson over there on the other side of the glass, and from the top secret bunker over there in Idaho, Jimmy the Reaper Jardine. And now,
I just want you guys to know that this guy right here, this guy right up here, that's the coach that shall not be named. We're studying him. We're studying to find out what not to do moving forward.
Right. Dissect him.
mm-hmm.
Forget to put a few parts back in also.
Don't, please. Don't. I don't even think there are any parts that exist that could fix that. I'm surprised he's just not putting it in the fire pit and lighting it on fire, but that's just me. All right. So now it's time for the top half. All right. And everyone's been asking in the chats. They've been throwing different suggestions in and stuff like that. And look, what is one of the things I'm going to ask you guys that the New York Jets lack most desperately? I mean, we could pick several, but what's the one thing that we've had the biggest issue with?
Edge rush, and I got to say corner. We gave up quite a few, chunk plays last season. Third down plays where we really could least afford to have them happening, and they're like 16 and 20 yard, kind of third down plays. So yeah, edge and corner. I think those two are kind of my 1A right now.
All right, Jimmy, what do you say?
I think an edge rush puts less pressure on our corners. So I think if we can give the quarterback less time to throw with an edge rush,
it helps.
Our corners are better than we think.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Here's a name that I'm actually going to throw at you, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, what the hell? Why would you even think this? And I got to pull his name up because I scrolled down a little bit and I ended up passing him. All right. One of the guys that I like, especially with Baltimore having a little bit of cap issues, they are going to have to let some people go. One of the guys that I like, and of course, Ray Burgess, Ray Burgess and Rockaway Archie chiming in with two very funny. Rockaway Archie says cojones, and Ray Burgess says talent, along with two crying, laughing faces.
We
emojis.
have talent, guys.
We do.
We have talent. The problem is that we had the wrong guy pushing the buttons.
Correct.
Now the question is that we need to go. Hopefully we have the right guy pushing the buttons. Now we just need to get more talent. We don't need to replace talent. We need to add talent on this team. So, and shout out to Daniel Smith for that line, because you know what? He's mentioned that a couple of weeks in a row on his Jets Guru show. And I want to give him some credit for that. But the guy that I have my eye on that I would like the Jets to go after, age might be a little bit of a factor, but I still think he could still come in and perform. Matthew Judon, edge rusher from Baltimore. He's a guy, high motor, high intensity. I think you could go ahead and plug and play him in this defense, in this 4-3 defense, and I think he could be successful here. So that's somebody here that I'd like the Jets to go after. Now,
Baltimore's defense got a lot of guys, man.
Yep, they do. I don't know what it is, but they churn out defensive guys like a motor.
Yeah.
So it's crazy on there. Now you
Especially
guys were talking about corner, okay? Now I heard you guys mention Richard Sherman, so I'm not going to go and mention that because I love the idea of bringing Richard Sherman in. But here's another guy that I would like to bring in from that San Francisco secondary, and that's Jason Verrette. And the reason why I'd like to bring in Jason Verrette is because he played with Richard Sherman, knows the system, and can actually teach the young kids the nuances. Plus, he's not a bad corner himself. So he's actually got some pretty decent stats going on over there. So I think that he would definitely be an upgrade for what we have, okay, moving forward. And plus, you're going to see guys like Javelin Guidry, Bryce Hall get their opportunities for the kick at the can. But on the other side, you still need that veteran presence to kind of rein everybody in. And I think that both Sherman and Verrette can provide exactly that. So now, here's my whipped cream and cherry on top. And I know everybody keeps crying about wide receiver. Wide receiver. We need a wide receiver. We need a wide receiver. We need a wide receiver. Okay, we've heard names thrown out there like Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Godwin, okay, Curtis Samuel. Here's a guy I kind of like that I really don't think anybody is talking about, and I really don't understand why. But DeMarcus Robertson from Kansas City, 26 years old, played with Patrick Mahomes, and even though he didn't have one of his greatest games in the Super Bowl, still a really good receiver. Now, I understand when you got Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, anybody can make anything look easy. But he could probably come in and instantly give a little bit more speed and fire to this wide receiving core. So, this is a guy that I would have my eye on personally. I think it's an under-the-radar move, kind of an underrated wide receiver move that I think, again, could bolster this wide receivers core. Now, I keep hearing about Crowder getting cut and so on, or we should cut Crowder. There was a couple of comments in about 23 drafting Kadarius Toney. Okay, look, I love Kadarius Toney from Florida. I would love the Jets to get him at 23. But I'm not cutting Crowder. I'm not cutting the single most productive receiver that the Jets have currently on the roster right now under contract to save $10 million. No, I'm not doing it. So, for those of you who want to cut Crowder and feel like that $10 million could go someplace else, this is the difference between replacing talent and adding talent. Crowder, talent, under contract, on the field. Guess what? You need to add people to that talent that's currently on the field. That's how you build the team. Okay? We don't take Crowder and put in somebody else who's not going to give you the production that Crowder is going to give you. Okay? So this is the reason why Rob Gonzalez chiming right in. Adios, Crowder.
No, because you don't get rid of a top 5 slot receiver in the NFL. He was a top 5, top 10 slot receiver in this Jets offense.
Yeah.
You don't remove that.
It's not a zero-sum game. These guys will say, yeah, there's guys that we can bring and that'll be better than him. But will they be as good as him realistically in what it is that we've done? He's already shown that he can do it here. So, I mean, you cut him and then you open up another hole, which means that the guy that you bring in is now a replacement. He's not an addition.
Right.
What it is that we need additions. We don't need replacements per se. We need to stack and add and build talent. You get rid of a guy that we know for a fact can actually play at a high level to bring in an unknown guy, a rookie guy in particular, and then still have the requirements of building around that rookie.
Right. And plus on top of it, a lot of people in the comments, Ray Burgers chiming in, Brandon Cooks, Crowder for the same money. He talked about getting that. There's a couple of people that don't like my pick. I'm sorry. Godwin, Mims, and Berrios is a trio that's being thrown in.
Yeah, but you're going to have to get Godwin out of Tampa Bay, and that's not happening.
Yeah, you already know that. Especially not with Tim.
No, Godwin came out and said that he's not testing free agency. He wants to stay in Tampa Bay.
So, I mean, Chris Godwin is as good as off the board. Now, I know it's very interesting. A lot of people were talking about Curtis Samuel. They're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. The Jets still don't have a legit number one. And then, of course, there's the big question mark of Allen Robinson. Is Allen Robinson going to get franchise tagged? Is Chicago going to let him walk? Will the Jets be able to get him if he does? I mean, I know he'll come here if we end up getting Deshaun Watson, but that's not a given. Would he come here if the money is right? And I think that he would come here if the money is right.
When did Berrios become as good as Crowder anyway?
No, Berrios is not as good as Crowder. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are up in the comments talking about that. No. Berrios is not as good as Crowder.
Just because we like the kid doesn't mean that he's actually played at that level. That's not how it works.
You guys remember the punter pass or the keeper punt segment that I was doing?
Right.
I had Berrios being
a
like a 100% keep, and I just think that he might get squeezed out eventually. But Braxton Berrios is, and I said it before, Braxton Berrios is that Wayne Chrebet type of receiver, not the talent of a Wayne Chrebet, but he's that type of a receiver, and I love that about him. But when you're talking about bringing in a number one wide receiver, I think Allen Robinson is going to be a tag and trade scenario for Chicago. They want to get something for him, but they're not going to pay him. So I don't want to give up draft capital to get Allen Robinson in. I think we need to look at who is going to be a receiver that we are going to be able to get for cash, period. No draft picks.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Godwin, Robinson off the board. Just kind of get that out of your head, guys.
Just to kind of piggyback off that also, as far
Ray,
as
I do want Hendrickson. Sorry.
Yeah,
Hendrickson. Ray Mallard chimed in. Sorry, Jax. Ray Mallard chimed in, so no one wants Hendrickson from the Saints. Yeah, we do, but here's the thing: we're going through top 5 that are not that obvious. Yeah. Like everybody could go and say, "Yeah, we want Dooney, we want Robinson, we want this, we want that." We're not here to actually just pick 5 names out of the air. We're here to actually pick 5 names that people need to go look at.
Yeah, to Jim's point, he's not a free agent anyway. We have to trade for him, and that's kind of not what we're looking at here. Mm-hmm. Also, let's kind of also realize that some of the because we're talking about receivers in particular, we also kind of need to kind of keep focus on what we're going to do in the tight end position as well, because that that's effectively adding another wide receiver or another receiver. Excuse me, even if it's not a wide receiver, effectively adding another receiver to that to that mix. So. Again, let's not hurt ourselves because we're talking about not spending money when we actually have money to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have money to spend. This isn't where we're going into this, up against it where we, we have to be frugal. We have to pinch pennies. We shouldn't be pinching pennies as of right now. Pinching pennies is how it is that you end up with, kind of a John Idzik situation, right?
Right.
We already saw how that worked out.
Or even a Mike McCagnon situation where he was bargain basement shopping, but yet threw like $86 million at C.J. Mosley, who we got 3.5 quarters of football from.
Well, yeah, and beyond all of that, Mike McCagnon had to spend money at a certain point, right? Like he had a limit that he had to spend over. There was a threshold where he could not spend below.
Right, but here's the thing, though: the money that he spent,
money at guys. Yeah, he throws money at guys.
The money that he spent, he could have actually gotten 3 guys that probably still would have been under contract and played well, as opposed to putting all his eggs in one basket. That was Mike McCagnon's problem.
Exactly.
Okay, remember something: he paid over $125 million for a secondary that lasted 1 season.
Yeah, because he paid Revis.
Right, he paid Revis, he paid Cromartie, he paid Gilchrist, he paid
and Buster Screen.
Right, and Buster Screen. Okay, and it resulted in
one of the worst groups in the league, I think. Overall.
Right, in year 2, and that was because we blew our wad 1 year. Ryan Fitzpatrick has a career year, and everybody was expecting the Jets to now be on the precipice of cracking the playoffs the second year, and we got a 4-12 season out of it. No, we've seen that song and dance before.
Rob Gonzalez. Lattimore is not a free agent. He's in the same situation in New Orleans as Hendrickson. They're both on the final year of their contract.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a possibility that they're going to end up getting cut if the Saints have to get under the salary cap. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of there's a lot of teams. There's 11 teams in the league that are over the salary cap. So all 11, some of them are going to have to make more drastic cuts than others, but. Nevertheless, there are still going to be some names out there that are going to be floated out there that could become available. So
Hendrickson and Lattimore are the guaranteed money's done, so they can actually clear $20 million off of their salary cap by dealing Lattimore and Hendrickson. So,
would you trade Sam Darnold for Lattimore?
Yeah.
Trade Sam Darnold for Lattimore?
Yeah.
If they give me Lattimore in a second, yeah.
I'm about to say, let's not just give Sam away, right?
You're asking, like, Lattimore
He's a
can be a
quarterback
franchise corner. Lattimore can be a franchise corner. He can be lockdown. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Sam,
he wasn't a number 3 overall draft pick. He's not a franchise quarterback.
Right. So I'm going to need Lattimore and a couple of picks.
If New Orleans is going to want Sam, you give me Lattimore and a second,
and
you can have Sam Darnold. Straight.
Yep. So
let's not forget. I mean, as much as we are really kind of in the market to move on from Sam, the possibility of Sam going to another team and being a really good quarterback is still a possibility. Let's not rule it out. So, and
I want him to be.
You know what? I expect that he will be. That, to me, that is a reality. I think he will be a good quarterback. He'll be a decent mid-range to maybe average. He could be a top 15 quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not going to be here, and it's going to take him a few years to be able to, shake out some of the cobwebs and shake off some of the bad teaching that he's received, here from this organization. So, let's not say we're going to give him away for a bag of Doritos, especially when you're talking about a kid who has a potential to be a franchise quarterback.
Right. Well, nobody's also talking about giving Sam Darnold away for a bag of balls. I mean, look, Sam Darnold can grab you a first-round pick. So, I mean, regardless of whatever franchise gets him, they're going to be getting a quarterback who they feel like they can fix. I mean, the reason why the Jets are getting calls on Sam Darnold is because they feel like they can fix this kid. You always have an offensive coordinator who thinks that they can fix X player. Okay, so that's fine. If they want to go and they want to take that chance, then let them go and take that chance. But here's what we want in return. I mean, if this was Mike Maccagnan would have given him away for a bag of balls and a slightly used jockstrap. This is not Mike Maccagnan. Okay, this is Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas is going to ask for a hell of a lot more, and you're either going to do business on his terms, or he's going to tell you to go kick rocks, and that's it. And that's the way it should be. This is how big boy football teams operate. So, and that's the problem with the Jets. We haven't operated like a big boy football team. We've operated like, we're just so happy to be here type of team. It's like enough of that already. So, I want to go through these comments really quick. You guys are really blowing this up, and I absolutely love it. Shout out to Brendan Falco, who's watching. Rob Gonzalez, Rockaway Archie, Ray Burgess, Frank Ngaglia, Kevin Sirkin, Ray Mallard. Mallard was talking about the trade for Lattimore. Here's an interesting comment here from Ray Burgess. If Bucks keep Godwin, maybe Scotty Miller can be had. They got A.B. Evans plus Ty Johnson. Just saying. Well, I would make a trade for Mike Evans, but that's about it. But that ain't happening.
Look, I don't think those guys don't want to leave, man. They just won a Super Bowl with Tim Brady, and Tim's still looking like he wants to play. He's gonna want to continue on, and those guys really. I mean, I would have to consider they would take less money to stay in that situation.
Right, exactly.
I think that's just realistic. These guys are playing for rings. There really isn't any question about that. And as much as we don't like Tim, I think Tim gives them the best possibility of winning another one.
Frank Ngaglia corrected you and said Tom Brady.
No. There's no correcting me. I know what I'm doing. No, Tim.
Right. So
Scotty Miller is under contract until 2023, by the way.
Yeah, so there goes Scotty Miller. So, I mean, the Jets really don't have to worry about having to make a trade with anybody. I mean, you have enough cap space right now where you can go and take a look at the free agent wide receivers that are out there. And, I mean, these are not some bad names that are on this list. I mean, we're talking about, let's see, when I scroll up to the top of the list because I want to be fair. You got Brandon Powell, who's a restricted free agent out of Atlanta. You got Jawan Green. You got Devin Gray, Laquan Treadwell, Chris Moore. Okay, DeAnthony Thomas out of Baltimore. Okay, Willie Snead. Okay, let's see, Curtis Samuel, who we all keep talking about. Allen Robinson, DeAndre Carter, A.J. Green, although A.J. Green 33, I don't know. How much does he have left in the tank? All right, you got Mike Thomas out of Cincinnati. Okay, JoJo Natson. No, we already tried that. You can forget that. Okay, Rashard Higgins. Okay, Tawan Taylor, Cedric Wilson. All right, who else? Jamal Agnew, Kenny Galladay. Okay, Mohamed Sanu, although he's pushing 32. How much does he have left in the tank? All right, Tavon Austin, T.Y. Hilton. Kevin talked about T.Y. Hilton earlier before.
I would take T.Y. And he's not 1,000 years old.
Right. So
like 800 years old.
so he's just a little bit younger than Methuselah.
Right.
Okay,
just a little.
Just a little bit. Okay, then we got Byron Pringle. Okay, Sammy Watkins is out there, but Sammy Watkins has flirted with the possibility of maybe retiring. So you never know. All right, Nelson Aguilar is out there. Tyrell Williams. There's Zay Jones. Okay. Who else?
Mine Aguilar.
Yeah.
I was seeing that earlier too. Yeah.
All right, Juju Smith-Schuster, which we talked about. Ray McLeod. Let's see, Jordan Matthews. Sean Poindexter, Trent Taylor. We already talked about Chris Godwin and Corey Davis. Marcus Johnson, Cam Sims, Robert Foster. I mean, there are players out there to be had. There's players out there to be had. So, the question is that it's not about bringing in the name, right? Didn't I say this on Weapons Hot after dark? Which is, it's not about going out and getting the shiny new toy. Yeah. It's getting the guy who's going to fit this system that's actually going to work. Okay? Yeah. So, we could go out and we could get a big name receiver. But if he doesn't work in this offense that we're putting together, it's a waste of Jones. It's a waste of money.
This is why I think Jet fans have the type of shell shock it is that they have, because we're throwing out all these names. Think about this. When Mike McCagnon brought all of those names in, Darrelle Revis, Cromartie, Marcus Gilchrist, Buster Green, they were all names that were associated with a level of play that had passed them by. Yep. They were no longer at that level. They were still the names. We were still excited as hell. In the newspaper, it looked great. On paper, we looked like we're going to be in beast mode. And then it fell off the damn map. So I'm not interested in the name anymore. I think when we start talking about production and we start talking about what a guy did in a specific situation, with that has similarities to what it is that we have, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a name anymore. I'm looking for who's going to be able to produce.
Right.
And if that guy that's going to be able to produce is a name that isn't a household name, I do not care. Let's make him one here.
Exactly. And this is what the mindset we should be going into free agency with is that how can we make our football team better? Because sure, we can go and we can get an Allen Robinson, and we can go and we can get a Kenny Galladay, okay? But if we don't upgrade the offensive line, if we don't upgrade if we don't improve our running game, if we don't improve our defense, then you know what? We're going to be happy that, but we got Allen Robinson and I got his jersey, but you know what? We finished 4-12.
I have a little bit of a question. I have a question about that because, CJ, again, as usual, I come to expect you to spit fire, but you always say some things that make me think, right? We're going to bring in Allen Robinson, but Allen Robinson had a level of production in a situation that is not similar to what it is that we have here. Did Allen Robinson have a Denzel Mims? Did he have a Jamison Crowder?
No,
Did he have a Chris Herndon? Did he have, all of those things, that we are going to be trying to solidify here? Did he have those things where it is that he was and still put up those types of numbers? Or are we expecting him to come in and still put up all of that production with guys that we are expecting to also have their own level of productions to put up?
Yeah.
It's far-fetched.
Right, really exactly. And this is the reason why you bring guys in who fit the system, who know their role within the system and can work as a unit. And that's why, when we all get excited about these big names, this is why sometimes big names just don't work. Look at Truman Johnson.
Wow.
Truman Johnson was like he was the guy. He was the hottest cornerback on the market. Yeah, let's go. He did great where he was. This, that, and the third. He came to New York and he flopped.
He had like a Nnamdi Asomugha type of a career path. Like he was up here and then immediately just fell all the way the hell off. Oh man, that was bad. And we paid him. Hold up. When did we stop paying
$73 million?
Yeah, I was about to say, when did we stop paying him? Don't we still owe him like $20?
I think we're going to be paying him $20 for the next 10 years.
Right? Like,
give him $20 for an Uber out of New Jersey.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm glad he's
so.
Gone, but still,
all right, Frank Ingaglia has a question for me. CJ, if you trade for Watson, who can you get everything you're saying as well?
How?
Yeah, how can you get everything you're saying as well? You actually can because again, Deshaun Watson is not going to take 3 first-round picks to get. The longer that this garbage goes on, the price is going to go down. And even though you're hearing all of these people saying, "We'll give you this, that, a third, my unborn kids, you could take my yacht, you could do this, you could do that, you could do the other thing," and then Watson has the power to say, "I don't want to go there because it's a worse situation than I'm already in here."
Yeah.
So the Texans really have no leverage. They can basically take what you get. They can basically say yes or no for what you're offering. But you still have the draft. You still have other areas in free agency where you can go. The cap hit is what, Jimmy? If we were to acquire Watson,
it's like $15 million this year.
Right.
It's 11.
So
it's 11. Okay. Yeah.
So
Look,
with the cuts and the contract restructurings and stuff or whatever, at the end of the day, okay, the Jets could still have upwards of $75 to $80 million of cap space, where you can still go out and get guys. Plus, you still have whatever draft capital that you have left. Yes, it's very doable.
Let's keep it in perspective, okay? Because let's just give the outline for what it is that we're seeing. They're saying that they want us to give 3 first-rounders and Sam for Deshaun Watson, and I'm telling you that's not going to happen. Because the compensation that we should receive back for Sam should actually be equivalent to at least one of those first-round picks. So let's just say 2 first-round picks, 1 this year, the 2 this year, and Seattle's pick going into next season. Or, even if we were to say, let's go ahead and let's give them ours, whatever ours will be for next year, which if we are being realistic, still has the possibility of being a little higher than what Seattle's pick would be, notwithstanding if they lose Russell Wilson. Let's not completely lose it, but we're talking about giving up 2 first-round picks, quite possibly a second or a third, and no players. We've got 4 first-round picks over the course of the next 2 seasons, which means we'll still have 2 first-round picks. We've got some additional seconds, which means I think we'll still have, if not a second, multiple second, possibly third-round picks going into next season as well. So again, we're talking about giving up what is a sizable, trade package. But we're also talking about bringing in a guy that justifies giving up that pick. We don't draft veterans, right? How many times have I said that? We don't draft veterans. We don't know what it is that we're going to get at the second-round pick. But we can pretty easily say, if we were to get a Deshaun Watson, we would be lucky. We would be lucky to get a Deshaun Watson with that number 2 pick. But we know for a fact if we give up that number 2 pick for a Deshaun Watson, we know what it is that we're getting. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And Jim, again, I remember when you said this, coming back from Green Bean show. Phenomenal show. Great work also. I just wanted to throw some shots out on that. But you're right. You're absolutely right. The draft does not stop after that first-round pick. How many of the starting running backs throughout the league, guys that have produced at a high level, are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round possibly picks? You know what I'm saying? Most of them, exactly. Most of them. So let's just think about it in those terms. Offensive linemen, you can get quality offensive linemen in the 2nd and 3rd round. Yes, you do want this stud guy that you'll get in the 1st, but there's no guarantee that guy is going to be the monster that you would expect him to be.
Yeah, but what has Saquon Barkley done being the number 2 overall draft pick?
Exactly. Saquon Barkley cannot do it by himself. All right, and in this case, we're talking about adding guys that aren't going to have to do it by themselves. They're going to be part of a conglomeration of quality guys that will be well coached. We're going to be able to do a lot more than what I think people are expecting us to be able to do.
I mean, Derrick Henry was a 45th pick, second round. So,
and that guy is what the human equivalent to a moving skyscraper.
The man's a cyborg.
Sherman tank, yeah, right.
Right.
Inhuman.
He'll be back. Right?
Really quick, I want to address something in the comments right here. Shout out to Frank and Gaglia. My point is what you said about grabbing a number one wide receiver. You're contradicting yourself. Okay? You said we need all this help and can't spend money on a wide receiver. If you trade Watson, you have to give up a shit ton of picks. You don't. This is the point that I'm trying to say, Frankie. I think you're missing the point that I'm trying to get. The longer that this shit goes on, excuse my language, I know I cursed. The longer that this goes on with the Houston Texans, with Deshaun Watson and him not wanting to play, the price is going to go down. Okay, the only team right now that legit has the assets to bail the Texans out is the Jets. Okay, and basically, by getting rid of that, we'd be doing them a favor by picking up his contract because his contract is insane. Okay, so you could still give him you could. The Finns are only going to get involved to drive up the price. Joe Douglas could walk in and say, "Look, we'll give you the number 2 overall pick. We'll give you Seattle's first rounder next year. We'll give you Sam Darnold, and that's it."
I think they'd be foolish to not take it.
Right.
They'd be foolish. Look, the difference between the number 2 pick and the number 3 pick is a lot wider than I think what people are really kind of thinking that it is. Especially if you have the belief that we're starting to see that Zach Wilson is this all world kind of a prospect and talent. And while I think it's still unwarranted to say that Justin Fields is a scrub, I personally don't think that I'm not going to go back into that. But the fact of the matter is that if you really want a guy, number 2 is much better than number 3 because you just have that many more opportunities to ensure that you get him. Right,
because everyone's assuming that Trevor Lawrence is coming off the board number 1. But if Zach Wilson continues to keep shooting up these draft boards and is the top Wilson, Urban Meyer could have a total change of point, which means that Trevor Lawrence could end up going number 2. So now, shout out to Ray Burgess. This is a bidding war between Finns and us. It all comes down to the Texans. It all comes down to do the Texans like Sam or Tua. He also chimed in to say you get Watson no matter what if you give up 3 ones plus Sam just to keep him away from the Finns.
Wow.
I don't even think it does come down to that because the fact of the matter is if you hold Sam in reserve, you can sneak back into the first round with Sam to Washington or New Orleans.
Exactly.
You don't have to deal Sam to Houston. You can say, I'm going to give you let's just say this. I'll give you the number 2 overall pick, the number 34 overall pick, and Seattle's 2022 first-round pick for Deshaun Watson, and you can be done with it. Now, the Finns can say whatever they want, and if he goes there, then Joe Douglas has all the options at number 2, because what if that does happen, CJ? What if Trevor Lawrence does fall?
Right. Then TL is a Jet, baby!
And we just told Houston to kick rocks.
Right.
Because
Houston
Miami offered them one of their
Houston is
extra
kicking
picks
themselves.
back.
Yeah, the Houston is kicking themselves in that case, right?
Sam is getting us a first rounder, Rob. This has been talked about. There have been talked. Carolina offered us the number 8 pick for Sam and a 34. Sam and 34 gets us 8. That's already been talked about. This is confirmed. Washington has already confirmed number 19. New Orleans has confirmed 28. These are confirmed discussions with Joe Douglas.
That's that's number 1 wide receiver. That's Najee, kind of Etienne, kind of
Rashad Bateman at 23. There's your number 1 receiver. What is a number 1 receiver?
Hold on. Is it Mims though? I mean, because I keep missing the point on this, but is it Mims supposed to be really our number 1 receiver? We're looking at him and saying, he's good, but no, I think you kind of don't walk into that in the situation that we had last season. You don't really establish a super great number 1 receiver with the offense and the quarterback that we have.
Wait. I gotta put this in here. Rockaway Archie. We always gotta put him in. The Finns just hired the Hawaii 5-0 kids coach to work with them. They are committed to this kid. They are out of the running, if you ask me. Yeah. So
That's reality.
Frankie and Gaglia, again, eventually Mims will be a number one, just not yet.
Right.
Ray Mallard is like bugging out, dude. Like he's absolutely bugging out. So he's like, man, you guys are tripping. And then his next comment over here is, if you do not have a quarterback, then you don't have a foundation for your football team. Point blank, guys. Come on now. Ray, this is talking about getting a quarterback who is going to lead this team into the future for the next decade. Yeah. Now, one of the things that the New York Jets have a quarterback, which we've never had before ever in this franchise, okay, is options. Because you could go and trade your draft collateral to go get Deshaun Watson. You could go and take the number 2 pick and take a Zach Wilson, or see if Trevor Lawrence will fall to you, or whatever. You could also trade out of number 2, go down and take a Kyle Trask or a Trey Lance. So there are plenty of options at quarterback, and I don't understand why everybody's like bugging. It's like, this goes back to what I was saying for the past couple of weeks. It's some Jet fans have it in their head that if we don't get Deshaun Watson, this offseason is a failure. And I want you to stop thinking that way. Stop it. Because you know what? You're not going to enjoy the offseason. You're going to spend the offseason being so aggravated and breaking dishes and glasses and being mad at the world, and it's the worst thing that you could do to yourself. As a Jets fan, this is the best time to be a fan as a Jets fan. You know why? Because we finally hit the reset button the right way.
Right.
And let me ask you guys this. What is a number 1 receiver?
There's no answer. There's no definitive answer for that. Come on.
Right. So you can't just say that the guy that plays on the outside because he's fast is your number 1 receiver. Because what if that fast guy can't catch the goddamn ball?
That was Robbie.
Yeah.
And
how gives up on routes?
Yeah, and how many people thought Robbie was a number 1?
I'll argue that Jamison Crowder is our number 1. It's not dependent to be an outside wide receiver.
That's the bottom line, though.
Right.
Just look at what it is that we did. Our offense either went through Frank Gore or Jamison Crowder. Just look at touches. That's to be seen in the numbers. That's how to be seen as it's shaking out. So now we're talking about, if realistically, you're talking about getting rid of our number 1 receiver because he makes $10 million a year.
Correct. I'm saying that a number 1 receiver, to me, is a guy that you can count on, play in and play out, to catch the ball, to move the chains, to keep the drives going.
Irregardless
That's
of matchup.
a number 1 receiver. I don't care if you're a
Regardless of
slot
matchup.
or a wideout.
Regardless of matchup. Because that's I think why we were talking about, oh yeah, well, he's no Julio Jones. There's only one damn Julio Jones in the world, man. Real talk. There's only one in the world.
There'll be 2 now. Mims will be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I know. They'll be saying, well, he's no Denzel Mims. That's the difference. You feel me?
Exactly.
Because Mims has all of it, man. And just think about this. Because again, it boils down to what it is that we do at the quarterback. If we bring in a Deshaun Watson, and I'm going to speak this as if it's going to happen, because I really feel like this is the only way for us to kind of go at this point to bring in Deshaun Watson. But to have Denzel Mims, to have Herndon and whoever else is that we're going to bring at the tight end position, because we're going to have to add some depth at that position as well. If we do keep Crowder, he's gonna make Berrios better, but he's gonna improve all of those guys, and then bringing in, whether it be a high price free agent or another really high pick in the draft, Deshaun Watson makes all of those guys better, and actually it just translates into better football. So
that's in the one Jets drive is the best quarterback in franchise history. Period.
Look, right from the moment his name is announced, that's it. He's the guy.
So, and shout out to Ray Burgess. Like I've been talking to him for a little bit while you guys were volleying back and forth. He started the conversation off with, we bugging because we don't want to see him in Miami. Facing Josh Allen and Watson for the next 10 years would be suicide. Absolutely. But here's the thing. Agreed. Okay? But here's the thing. It's not so scary when you got a guy of your own who could come in here and who can bust those teams' asses and be just as competitive of them. We have to stop living in fear as Jet fans of like the whole Dan Marino, Ken O'Brien crap that happened in 83, 84. We have to stop that. Okay, because everybody was like, "Oh my God, we drafted Ken O'Brien ahead of Dan Marino, and Dan Marino had a Hall of Fame career, and Ken O'Brien, was like a mediocre quarterback." Stop. Joe Walton's not here no more. Okay, Leon Hess doesn't own the team anymore. Okay, and I know that Woody Johnson has made some really stupid mistakes that we could all call Leon Hess-esque mistakes.
But Woody's paid two guys too, man.
But Woody, Chris, right, and Kelly. Woody Johnson has kept his mouth shut up to this point. Christopher Johnson publicly came out and said all football decisions are going through Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas has the final say. He's there to write the checks. Because if they go back on their word, the public relations nightmare that the Jets will face will be absolutely nightmarish. Because if they think that they saw outrage this season when this team went 2-14, just imagine the firestorm that's going to happen, that's going to erupt at One Jets Drive.
You know what? I think it would be the apathy. I think the apathy hurts more than anything else. Because it got to a point where as Jets fans, we didn't even care. Who cared? Let's just go ahead and finish out the season winless. You know, let's slap that on Adam Gase's behind and kick him out of the door with it when he leaves. And we don't care. Like how many folks tuned out after the 10th, the 11th loss? How many guys actually stopped watching the games and just started betting on them?
Right. And started betting against the Jets, you know.
Exactly,
dude,
right?
Scott Gillespie, who's not here in the chats. Every single day that we were broadcasting during the regular season, he would tell us he bet against the Jets and how much money he won.
Made it, man. Look,
Yeah.
I'd be taking my lady somewhere, you know, next season on a cruise if I would have won all of that money. So the fact of the matter is that is what's changing now.
Right.
That's what's changing now.
So, all right, guys, it looks like we ran a little bit longer than we would have liked to. So, let's finish it up with closing thoughts. Jimmy, we're going to start with you, then we'll circle around to Jackson, and I'm going to finish it up as we close out tonight's episode of Weapons Hot.
So I want everybody to know that I'm not against spending the money. We have it. We can spend it. The draft does not end after the first round. Deshaun Watson is more than affordable. He is going to be, even after we get him, even when his cap hit is $37 million, we still have a rolling average of over $70 million for the next 3 or 4 years. After we get him. I am talking about the expense of getting players like Robinson who will likely be tagged and traded. I don't want to spend that draft capital on Deshaun Watson, then have to spend more on Allen Robinson. We don't need to, because there are other extremely talented receivers out there that Watson can elevate. He can elevate the talent we have, just like Daniel Smith and CJ has been pointing it out. Do not replace talent, add talent. Do not cut Jamison Crowder. Do not just minimize what other players are doing on this current roster. We are more talented than the media gives us credit for. We're more talented than even the fans give us credit for. This team can go to the playoffs with a couple extra pieces, guys. We can do it. With the right coaching staff, the right leadership, and a couple extra pieces, we are there. We are there. We're looking at a 4-3 zone defense from Ulbrich and Saleh. This is going to be a legitimate defense. Yeah. There is only one direction that this offense can go, and that's up. The coach who shall not be named, this guy right here, this guy, 32nd ranked offense the entire time he was here. We can only get better. So now that it's not a Denny's menu with Frank Gore's picture on it as our playbook, we're going to be moving up with this roster and a few extra pieces. So I'm not saying that we can't get this guy or that guy. I'm saying we don't need to get something that's going to be overly priced, because it's going to work out in our favor. I promise you. All
right. I'm just going to piggyback off of that, okay? Because I think the reality is that we've been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the theme is that we have so many holes that we need to add this glut of talent through free agency and through the draft. We're not going to have enough to be able to do all of those things, right?
We can, yes.
And this, again, I just want to reiterate, Jim, because, again, you set this up perfectly. We do have the ability to add probably more than what it is that people are expecting that we will, okay? 9 draft picks at this point, okay? Now, think of 9 players that you would want to add to the team. You add 9 players to this organization, and you're talking about completely transforming 2 to 3 aspects of the game, period. Because, I mean, you figure there's 11 guys on the field at all times, offense, defense, and special teams. If you add 3 high-quality guys to each of those teams, we're in much better shape than what it is that people think that we are. Now, mind you, again, we're just because that's the only aspect that I threw out, the draft. Think about how many free agents that we'll be able to add with $80 million, $90 million.
Yeah.
Okay. That you're talking about adding 4, 5, how many quality, quality veteran starters. And then on top of that, the draft picks. And even if we did give away 2 to 3 draft picks, those 3 draft picks will be spread out over the course of 2 seasons. We have 9 draft picks, not only this season, but next season as well. Okay, so again, we'll have a strong cap situation going into next season also, on top of having a strong draft situation as well. Guys, we really kind of need to reel this in a little bit, and we need to think realistically about what this situation is. It isn't just us here saying that this team is in the best possible situation that we've been in decades. I mean, I'm just going to keep it real, in decades, because I think we are in a much better position now than maybe it is that we were when we brought Sexy Rexy in. And y'all know I love Rex. Y'all know I love Rex, man. But we're in a better position now. I think Rex had an immense defensive acumen that he brought in. Had very, very, noticeable difficulties with handling offense. Robert Saleh doesn't seem to have that problem. We're getting one of the top defensive coaches in who just so happened to, when he walked in, brought one of the top offensive minds with him.
Yeah. Okay,
so this is not Rex going out trying to throw darts at the wall and bringing in Sperano and bringing in Marnie Morningweg and then actually having us transition and having Chan Gailey, who, to be perfectly honest with you, was one of our best coaches during that tenure, who just had horrible staff and was forced to make decisions that I think went against what it is that he wanted to do. That's not this situation. Okay, guys, we need to kind of pull this back a little bit, and we really kind of need to look, instead of just, kind of spitting out what it is that we hear. Let's go look at the roster, look at the free agents, look at how many draft picks it is that we have, and think rationally about where it is that we are. CJ says it all the time. We've got over 100 some odd years worth of Jets fandom here, and I'm telling you right now, throughout the 1,000, it seems like the eons of Jets fandom that I've suffered through, this season is probably the one that I think I really legitimately have the best feeling about, because I do believe in the direction that we're going. And if I'm just looking at it from all of those views, because, you want to have the 360 view. I'm looking at it from all of those views. With regards to the draft, we're in awesome shape. We've got multiple picks. With regard to free agency, we've got a lot of money available, and we've got quality guys that are going to be interested in coming here and will be available. And then on top of that, we have a guy who's already demonstrated that he knows how to evaluate and bring in talent. Spent a lot of money bringing in Rhett Hogan. Spent a lot of money filling out the remainder of our front office. And then Joe Douglas, who's had some difficulties with free agency, we got to give it, but has done an outstanding job with the draft. And I think having that first year and that first season under his belt with doing what it is that he did, I think coming into this season, he'll be much more comfortable. He'll be much easier with what it is that he's looking to do. Guys, I just think I think we need to be smart about how it is that we approach this. So let's look at it from let's pull back a little bit on the we're not going to be able to do it, because we have more than enough resources to be able to make this work. I'll end it there. Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to start it off by saying 2 words, what I preach every single week: competitive sustainability.
Facts.
And you're not going to get competitive sustainability by going out and hiring a bunch of high-priced free agents that are not going to be sustainable for the next 5 years, regardless of whoever's under contract. Okay, we tried that already, and it didn't work. All right, what I'm looking for Joe Douglas this offseason is to make smart free agent signings, which are going to better this football team, smart draft picks, which again are going to better this football team, and continue to build upon the foundation which we started to build last year. Now, we had the wrong guy at the controls. Say whatever you want about Adam Gase, say whatever you want about Darryl Loggins. It was a complete and utter mess. And I'm sure every Jet fan out there will agree with me. All right? So what we need to do is we have the opportunity here with a blank slate, with a blank checkbook, with 9 draft picks at our disposal, potentially the option of getting Deshaun Watson or whoever may come down the pike with the number 2 overall pick, whether it's Zach Wilson, whether it's Mac Jones, whether it's Trey Lance, whether it's whoever. We have the opportunity and the resources to turn this around sooner rather than later. But we can't just start spitballing and just say, well, we think this guy's going to fit, or we think that guy's going to fit, or we think the other guy's going to fit, and then it's not going to work. Because that's how you throw good money after bad. Yeah, and Joe Douglas is not. Joe Douglas did not get 3 Super Bowl rings by throwing good money after bad. Now, granted, 2 of them, it was more so Ozzie Newsome, but he learned under Ozzie Newsome. In Philadelphia, he did a lot of the heavy lifting. Okay, so he still brings that cred to the table, and we need to give him the same amount of flexibility and the same amount of chances like we gave McCagnon, like we gave Bradway, like we gave Idzik, like we gave Tannenbaum, and every other idiot that came after him. Okay? Because we are now in a potential with the resources that we have to, again, turn this around sooner rather than later. But in turning it around, we also want that competitive sustainability. Because we don't just want to compete this year. We want to compete next year. We want to compete the year after that. We want to compete the year after that, and so on. Whenever the playoffs are going to get talked about, I want the New York Jets name mentioned, having a legitimate run to go deep in the playoffs. When it comes to the contending for the AFC East, and everyone seems to think that, we're looking up at Buffalo now. Great. Here we go again. Buffalo is not the Patriots. Stop right there. Buffalo is a very good team. They're the team to beat in this division. Miami, right behind them. The Patriots, still a huge question mark, but as long as Bill Belichick is head coach there, they're always going to have an inside shot.
He's got a lot to prove.
It's time for us to take that chip on the shoulder and to start using it against the rest of the AFC East. And we may have had year after year after year after year of failure. And Jet fans get picked on in the AFC East all the time. Why? Because our franchise has been a joke. Well, this is the first time that we could look at the franchise and say, we have the potential to not be a joke anymore. Okay? You may not agree with the Joe Douglas decisions. You may not like some of the players that he brought in. But if you're root for this team, get behind it.
Yep.
Plain and simple. Be a Jet. Live like a Jet. Play like a Jet. Bleed green and white the same way we all have done. Because we still bleed green and white no matter how many stupid decisions this franchise has made. How many different shows we've done when they hired Adam Gase, when they fired Mike McCagnon, when they hired John Idzik. Okay? So, I get everyone has their reservations. And every single person has their own singular vision of what they think the New York Jets should look like, or what they think the New York Jets should do. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, regardless of whatever decisions that they make and whatever team that they field, support your team 110%. And that's what it's about. If we're ever going to get rid of the post-traumatic stress disorder, the only way the PTSD goes away is by winning football games. And I don't care who we need to bring in to do that. If they're winning football games, then I don't care who's playing.
Yep.
Go get me Shane Falco, okay? Go get me what's the dude Paul Crew from the friggin' Mean Machine, okay? I don't care who's out there on the center. If they're winning ball games, okay?
Right, go give me Fitch from the Wildcats.
Right. So bleed green and white. Be proud of your team. And it's okay to agree to disagree if you like one guy and somebody else likes another. It doesn't make you a bad fan. It doesn't. But just have a realistic output for this team. Have a realistic output. And you know what? Realistically, look at the draft picks, look at the salary cap, look at the people that are available. You make the right moves, no reason why this team can't be competitive next year. None. And that's all I got to say about that. So with that, we're going to end tonight's episode of Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Sports War Radio, and Snowman Digital Media. I would like to thank every single person who was in the comments. Ray Mallard, Matthias Simon, Rockaway Archie, Frank Ingaglia, Rob Gonzalez, Kevin Sirkin was watching for a little while. Eddie Delgado, El Chapo, shout out to him. Few other people over here. If I missed your name, I do apologize. But I thank you guys every single week for chiming in, dropping your comments in. You can follow the show on Twitter at CNC Jets Factor. You can follow me, JetsFan0523. My partners in crime on the other side of the glass, Mr. Kevin Jackson at Spotty Blackman, Mr. Jimmy the Reaper Jardine at Jets by Jimmy. Also, go to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network Facebook page, their website, like it, subscribe to it, bookmark it. Go to Google Play if you have an Android. Download the app. If you have an Apple, an iPhone, go to the iOS system, type in WWSRN, search it up. That is the best way to consume Weapons Hot, not only live, but also our archive episodes. So you can see some of the stuff that we reference over and over and over again. All right? Another thing, Weapons Hot also has a Facebook page. Make sure you like and subscribe. Our content's up there. Message us, we'll message you right back. We love going back and forth with fans about this team. Also, leave us some feedback about how we're doing here on Weapons Hot. If there's a particular topic that you'd like us to talk about, please, hit us up. We'll explore all the topics, okay? No matter how mundane they may be, no matter how ridiculous they may be, we love going over different topics, moving forward with the New York Jets, all Jets related, etc., etc. Also, don't forget to check out Weapons Hot After Dark, okay? On our YouTube channel, be sure to go like and subscribe. Put your notifications on. Every time we do a Weapons Hot After Dark show, you will get a ping that will let you know that we are live. Tune in. Hopefully this time the live comments will work because last show the live comments didn't work. So I have no idea what happened with that, but whatever. So be sure to go like, subscribe. There's plenty of ways that you can consume Weapons Hot and interact with us, message us. We love talking to you guys, and we cannot thank you enough for the support.
If you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear it. Real talk, guys. If you agree with something, throw it out. If you disagree, throw it out. The debate is always the point.
True.
We'd love to hear your ideas. Love to hear why it is that you think that we're wrong, and we'd love to be able to tell you why 100%. It is that you're wrong.
Right, exactly. I mean, look, we say it every week. We come up here and we give our opinions as fans. Okay, we don't know it all. We don't have sources inside the Jets organization. We do our research. We read our articles. We listen to shows. We consume other shows and so on and so forth. And we give our honest, educated opinion by the information that we have in hand. And you know what? Not everybody's going to agree with what we have to say. Not everybody's going to like what we have to say. And you know what? But that's just a fact of being a fan. You get 10 Jet fans in one room, not one of them are going to have the same opinion. Everybody's going to have a different singular version or a different singular vision on how they feel the Jets should go about free agency, the draft, whether it's play calling, whether it's how you do this, how you do that, how you do the other thing. You're never going to get two Jet fans in the same room that agree with everything. And if you do, then a meteorite's going to come down and explode, and we're all going to be extinct after that, and then the dinosaurs are going to pop back up. Right. All right, then at that point, nobody cares. But, nevertheless, we love giving our opinions. That's what we're here for. We love having this platform to give our opinions. And again, that's what we're here for. We do this for you guys because we love you guys. We appreciate and love the support that you guys give to us by listening, by tuning in every single week. And this show would not exist without you. So give yourselves, that's a round of applause for you guys in the comments. Okay? Because that's how much we love you. All right. So for Jimmy the Reaper Jardine, over at he's on that side. There we go. At his top secret bunker over there in Idaho. And for Mr. Kevin Spotty Blackman Jackson over at the Jackson compound in Georgia. This is CJ the Painkiller D. Simone from Armory Studios here in Palm Bay, Florida, signing off. We will see you guys when we see you guys, and I will leave you guys with, still, in my opinion, is the best chant in the National Football League. All right, guys, you have a great night. Enjoy. We'll catch you guys next week.
Love you guys.
Peace, love, go Jets.
Wear your mask.
That's it.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.